Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the channel. In today's video, I'm just going to go over a problem that I had with my RC4 drive ready to run GELANDE 2 chassis. It came pre-built, obviously that's what ready to run means, but I was experiencing a problem. Now the problem I had was a juddering. I'll try and explain to you what I mean. I've already taken this apart. So what it was doing was when I was going forward, I'll just quickly go over what motor I'm running. This is the Hobbywing Quick Run Fusion, and it is the 1800 kV variant. So everything was running fine on my RC car until I noticed at a certain speed it would start to judder. Now at super slow crawling speeds it would obviously go super smooth like this, but then if I go a little bit quicker it would start going like this. For some reason, that's a bit exaggerated, it was kind of like going like this forward. It wasn't juddering left to right, it was just back and forwards, kind of like a start-stop motion. But as soon as I gave it a little bit more of the throttle, it would smooth out and start going forward, but then the body would kind of kangaroo, it would kind of jump like this forward in an absolutely erratic motion, kind of going forward. So the first thing I did was take apart the wheels just to check they were all properly assembled, and then I was checking the bearings and everything. I did find a bearing on the front right steering wheel, and this is from a brand new model. I know I've had this for about a year, but I haven't really used it. As you can see, the wheels and everything is almost brand new, and that's because I've been working on it rather than running it. And one of the bearings were actually damaged. This is the offending bearing here, but that wasn't the cause of my problems. This one has, although brand new, is catching. So if you're having the same problem and you've checked all your wire connections and everything is installed correctly, then you may be having the problem that I had, which was this, the transfer case. And this is normally installed here like this. But after uninstalling it, what was happening was I was turning this by hand, and it was quite hard to turn. And after every so often, about here, it would catch and I wouldn't be able to finger turn it. So I'd really put some effort into it and it would catch and then suddenly release, and it would basically go like this and then go click, 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 turn, click, 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 turn, like that. So I opened it up and I realized all of the cogs were catching on each other. Now I think it's important when you diagnose this problem that you have a very close look at the gears. Now, when the lid is on, or when the cover is on and it's all held together, all the gears are meshed together in a correct orientation and distance that they're slightly closer together than when the cover is off. So if you just take the cover off and start spinning them, what I noticed was my gears were spinning very, very smoothly. But as soon as I put the cover back on, they were catching each other. So they would turn like this and they would catch, and then I would really force it and it would release. And then suddenly it would just bind and catch and not move anymore, and I'd have to use extra force again. So I took each of the, shall we say, gears out or cogs, and I pushed them together by hand and I started turning them like this. And it turns out if you push them together close enough, they would just catch and bind and not move at all. I also noticed that when I opened the transfer case, there was almost no grease in it. Well, there was some, but it was translucent. Now, to my knowledge, I believe these should have had a red grease in them, because when I opened the transmission, there was a lot of red tacky grease inside, but this was almost bone dry. So what I had to do was take each of the gears out, I'll show you here, and unfortunately, I had to sand them down. Now, I wasn't taking off a ton of material, all I was doing was smoothing off the edges. It is completely dry at the moment because I wanted to show you before I re-greased it, just so that you have a slightly clearer look of what it looks like. This is how it runs now. This is obviously in a dry form, so you can hear it. And when I put the cover back on, when you turn it, you can turn it with almost no effort. And I'll be re-greasing this very soon, but I thought I'd make this video just to share with you guys in case anyone out there was having problems. Now, when I went online to try and find out the problem, obviously you do a lot of searching and researching, most of the times people with smoothness issues would be experiencing them due to cogging or some other issue. But mine wasn't really catching and not catching or engaging and non-re-engaging. It was physically binding into each other, and you had to pump more throttle in before it had enough power to release and go to the next cog where it would catch again. So that's why I was getting the juddering effect. It was kind of going, as I said. This is an absolute surprise to me because I thought these were supposed to run smooth like this from the factory, and I had no idea what it is. I can only assume that maybe it wasn't greased enough so that the cogs had time to kind of cause a little bit of binding with each other. Or maybe they were just like that from the factory. I just don't know, because I realized it had this issue. I thought at first it was the new motor that I installed, because obviously when you change something, something's not going to run the same as it used to, and I thought maybe it was this. Now this has a function where you can throttle match, so if you set it to on and you engage the throttle, it will go forward at a speed that you set it to, and no matter what obstacles you have, let's say something's there and it has to go up, normally it would stop and then you have to engage more throttle and then it would go forward. But with the throttle matching, it would try and maintain that speed. Now I noticed if I engaged throttle matching on the settings, it would be really bad. So it would go, and you could hear it. When you're running this, you normally hear it whir, but it was coming in waves. So it was kind of make this sound like that, rather than a smooth sound. You could actually hear something was either not right. In fact, it sounded like something was caught inside one of the cogs and brushing against it every now and again, but it turns out it was just the gears catching. So I'll show you that one more time. In fact, I'll take out one of these. And as you can see, these were coated in a very nice black color, but obviously some of the coating has come off now. I'm afraid that had to be sacrificed. And as you can see, the gear, although it retains its original shape, is a lot smoother now, which I'm not too happy I had to do, because these were hardened steel and I'm pretty sure they were meant to last probably a lifetime. But now I've had to sand them down just to round everything off a little bit, and it took an absolute lifetime to do that by hand. There we go. And as you can see, there's no more catching, super smooth. And I said you had to have the cover on to really see whether they're catching, but now you can kind of get a really close-up view of this. I could not find anything online depicting this problem. I'm pretty sure I'm not the first person in the world to experience the gears catching and jamming from the factory. But maybe I was the only guy that didn't take everything apart and re-grease everything. So I guess ready to run really doesn't mean ready to run. It's assembled, so you know where everything goes. But you really have to take these apart to re-lube and recheck everything. But I'm super happy at how that's running now. I'm using minimal effort. Now, I'm not sure about this, but I think this is how smooth it should be from the factory, whether you assemble them or not. But the gears were just a bad fit. It wasn't a case of a small catch. Like at the first, I thought it was the sharp edges catching on each other, but then I realized they were really, really binding into each other, as in, if I went like this and they caught, I could hold one of the gears and the other one wouldn't come off. They would be connected, physically binded together, and I'd have to pull them apart. So I guess that's what they were doing in here, and it took an awful lot of power and energy to move them again, so you had to engage more throttle, thus making it kind of judder in a way. But anyway, that's it from me. I thought I'd share this problem with you. I'm having loads of fun with this motor. Oh, big thank you to the YouTube comment I got yesterday. It was, that said, the YouTube viewer said that he's built many motors, many RC4 drive models before. And he was just sharing the issues that he had with his, and after his list of issues, one of them was the transfer case, and he said they were not on the ready-to-run models. In his experience, it was kind of an issue. He had to take them apart and almost rebuild the whole thing. So that was his experience, and that made me think, you know what, I've never looked inside my transfer case, so maybe it's a good time to have a look. Did that, and I found this issue, found the problem. So that was it. That was the juddering issue I had at a certain speed. I will say it doesn't do it at other speeds. It was just a certain, I'd say a nice crawler speed. That's when it would rear its ugly head. But thank you very much to that YouTube viewer. Sharing experiences is what helps everyone in the community, and that's the aim and goal of this video. Hopefully this is going to shed some light and help someone else out there who have purchased something from RC4 Drive and realized, hang on a minute, something isn't really running right. Maybe this will help someone in the future. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.